looking forward to Aryama Sundaram versus Mahesh Jethmalani. Now, may I have the preliminary positions of these two distinguished gentlemen, please? We know Mahesh Jethmalani's position, and Mahesh Jethmalani feels, Mr. Sundaram, that it's all clear. This is just politics. Congress wants to use this to divert attention. The indictment is rushed, lacks substance, and also says that specifically there is nothing against Gautam Adani, Sagar Adani and Vineet Jain, which was the sum and substance of the response that the statements they put out today, Mukul Rohatgi and Mahesh Jethmalani. What is your view on this case and the aggressive counter response of the Adani group earlier this morning?
Well, in the first instance, I find it very amusing for it to be said that it's a political vendetta or otherwise. I'm very surprised because I'm sure that they're not alleging that the United States government is involved in a political vendetta against the Indian government. I'm sure that's not the suggestion. The fact of the matter is this. It is no doubt true, and this should be clarified, that the FCPA, which deals with conspiracy to commit offenses against the United States, does not indict Adani. That does not indict Adani. However, what Adani has been indicted in is conspiracy to commit security fraud, A, B, security fraud, and C, wire fraud. In all these three, they have been charged. Now, that is for me more worrying. I'll explain why. The FCPA is concerned with corruption of American officials. It's concerned with corruption on the United States soil. Adani has not been indicted for corruption of any American official. Frankly, if he was, it may not have concerned me as much as what does concern me, is that what he has been indicted for is corruption, is a securities fraud based on corruption of Indian government officials. That, according to me, is very serious. To say that there is no indictment against him is wishing away something which is totally untrue. There is a very serious indictment. The indictment is securities fraud, wire transfer fraud, conspiracy to securities fraud. And the basis of this is there was corruption of Indian government officials. Now, unlike India, where there's merely an FIR, and the FIR can just be the first report and action is thereafter taken, indictment in the United States requires a solid element of evidence, which of course is then to go forward and be proved or disproved, but definitely a strong prima facie reason for indictment. What has been produced according to the indictment are actual electronic exchanges, which in words seem to indicate corruption of Indian officials for the purpose of creating a happy scenario for entering the American securities market, which is why America is involved. Otherwise, the United States would not be involved if it's mere corruption of Indian officials with no repercussion on the United States. The whole case against them is there has been corruption of Indian officials, and based on this, the securities market has been tapped and approached in the United States and large monies raised. Now, that is a very serious indictment, and I would only like to summarize it with this one statement. If true, it is something which the present government, which has always stood so strongly against corruption, would definitely frown on, and I'm sure would take very strong action on, because this government has always stood against corruption and would definitely want an inquiry, would want an investigation if there was any corruption. On the other hand, since the whole world is full of this corruption of Indian officials. I feel an inquiry, an investigation is necessary, that if it is not true, that the name be cleared and India's reputation is restored. And I'm sure and I believe that this government would definitely take this very seriously, the indictment, have an inquiry, have an investigation, if nothing else, to show that, to tell the whole world that this is not so. But the indictment against them is there was corruption of Indian officials. The reason there's an indictment in the United States is the offshoot of that corruption was to falsely raise monies in the American market, which is why America is involved. As far as I'm concerned, as an Indian, I am concerned with that part of the indictment based on a lot of electronic exchanges of emails that Indian officials have been corrupted, Indian officials have been bought. And one way or the other, I believe this is something which warrants a very serious investigation in India.
Mr. Aryama Sundaram, you won't believe there are any motives behind it. You take it at face value. You don't believe there are any larger motives at play here. Are those not important?
I have great faith in a judicial system of any democracy. I respect a judicial system, and I would wish and hope that our respect for a foreign judicial system would be as strong as we would want the foreign country to respect our judicial system. And therefore, at this juncture, I cannot say, let's just wish it away as though it did not happen. It has happened, and I believe it warrants a further investigation, definitely a further inquiry, maybe a commission of inquiry by a very respected retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I think something like that, or a retired judge of the Supreme Court, or a straightforward investigation to see whether there is a case for registration of a case under the Prevention of Corruption Act.
Okay. Now,